Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
Where is LeBron James? He is currently away from basketball right now due to personal reasons, and this will make it at least 8 days without him playing a game of basketball, and this got the whole internet making up conspiracies about where he is and what happened to him. Even Stephen A. Smith is chiming in on it.
LeBron James said personal reasons. Did you really think he was going to get past that? I need that answer. But in the past, Shams, they would say rest. They said personal reasons. Now I'm going to ask you one more time. They said personal reasons. What's going on with LeBron James?
It's not crazy to miss a game of basketball due to personal reasons, but it's also hard to ignore what's been going on in the news lately, especially with P. Diddy and a lot of other celebrities are getting name dropped. I mean, LeBron has been getting hounded by people for his prior love to P. Diddy parties.
Bron, we know you was at them Diddy parties. We know you was there. We know you was at them Diddy parties.
I mean, just this week, Colby Covington called him out on a live interview.
Ask LeBron, what does he mean by there's no party like a Diddy party? I truly want to know. And not only that, LeBron, how many Diddy parties have you actually been to?
I'm not saying this is the reason why he's missing basketball, but it's interesting to think about, and I'm curious to know what you guys think.
I think that's exactly why he's trying to dip out of the public eye. He's just crossing his fingers and hoping this all blows over. It doesn't look like even the mainstream media is going to let this one rest, though. I'm glad to see him sweating. That dude is insufferable.
So there's a new suspect in the JonBenet Ramsey case. Earlier this month, John Ramsey received a letter from a woman in Louisiana claiming that her husband is the one who took JonBenet's life. Now, that man that she's referring to is a guy who went by the alias of David Cooper. David Cooper called John Ramsey in the days following JonBenet's death in a series of phone calls, saying that he was hired by disgruntled employees of John's company to take the life of JonBenet. Now, John was skeptical of this and even questioned this guy about specific things in his house, saying, for example, I have a model airplane on my desk. What color is it? And the guy said red, and the airplane was in fact red, but it wasn't just that. He was also able to identify other specific items in the house, explain how he entered the house, how he waited in a closet, and everything seems to match up. But here's the thing, Boulder police never followed up on this lead. They never brought him in for questioning. They never tested his DNA. In fact, they actually tasked John with, like, why don't you get him and bring him in? So John told his private investigators, the police, and this guy, hey, I'll pay for a flight for you to come from Boulder to here. And his detectives were like, no, wait a minute, let's just hold off on that. Even Ramsey's private detective said before he died that this guy confessed to writing the ransom note, and if you test the untested DNA on that note, it will match this guy. But to this date, they still haven't done it. We're going to be following this up. This might be the major break that we've been waiting for all of these years. Hit that follow button so you don't miss any of these critical updates. Drop your thoughts about this new lead in the comments, and of course, spread the word around.
It sounds like this guy has been trying to turn himself in from almost day one. Why was he never investigated? I swear, I've followed this case pretty closely, and if anything, the police are what's kept this case from being solved.
So I'm baking cookies and everything, and I was going to make these little, I don't even know what they're called, the little pretzel Hershey Kiss M&M things. I used to make these, and I would throw them in the oven, and after 4 minutes, they would be good to where you could take an M&M and push it down, and it would just completely melt.
So bad.
And I've had these Hershey Kisses in the oven. I even turned the heat up halfway through for 20 minutes, and they will not melt at all. They're just crumbling. They're hot, they're not melting at all. So tell me what they're making them out of now, because it's not real food.
That's disgusting. If chocolate is so bioengineered that you can't even make it melt anymore, can you even call it chocolate at that point? Hey, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and check out my merch store at berry-stepp.com.
They had a law that they created that said that anything other than grass could not be in your front yard. It's called the Beautification Act of America. Because people had whole farms. You wanted a lot of land, not to cut that sucker with a lawnmower, to grow stuff, to take care of your stuff. But no, we need you to go to the grocery store now. And keep in mind, the grocery store doesn't have anything growing. And in your mind, you keep saying it's a grocery store and there's nothing growing. You go to the pharmacy and there's no farm. But you know, your mind has been programmed by lack, limitation, and not enoughness in a slave mindset. You're not able to put it all together here. There's nothing in here healthy. So the bottom line is we were taught to limit ourselves from our natural healing. We were taught to be afraid of getting into our natural self, because that's paganism. Herbalism is paganism. Right. You got crystals and you got stones and things, and you into these numbers. That's pagan.
Right.
You got to go to the church to get your healing, and you got to wait till you die to go to heaven. Right. But the book, I'm reading the book, it don't say that. Where is this in the book at? Right. I thought it said something about creating heaven on earth. I thought it said something about you can do more than I. Right. Once you realize that you've got to reach this divine state inside you, and once you reach that, they call it in Sanskrit the siddhi. You have to reach this divine state, right, where you are existing, right, by creating your outcome in your mind first. First in your mind, then feel it like it's already happened.
Right.
Feel like you are creating heaven on earth. Feel your body healing. Feel your organs regenerating. Right. I've had people who have healed just from thought. I said, just focus on your leg, your knee, being better.
The power of the mind is amazing and can absolutely heal the body on its own in some instances. There is such a thing as the placebo effect after all. But that stuff at the beginning about the Beautification Act of America, unless he has sources I don't have access to, I looked that up and it appeared to just be some sort of bill to help clean up the streets, to plant flowers on the highways and prevent too many billboards from going up.
See Kuwait again? Cow farts are the problem.
Yeah, not burning tires like that.
Not 42 million tires burning in the desert.
42 million?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So don't forget, it's the cow fart. It's anything in the West is the issue. It's never anywhere else that needs to cut back or kill livestock.
Nope.
Or stop growing food.
It's almost always America, in fact.
And they want us to feel bad for warming our cars up in the morning. If you haven't figured it out by now, we are not the biggest contributors to climate change. But they want us to pay the biggest price. Something just doesn't add up with that.
Well, it's been nice knowing y'all. Super disturbing news coming out of the EU, with the UN vowing to imprison ex-users who share misinformation online. Who dictates what misinformation is? Well, it's the ones doing the misinformation. They've ordered world leaders to start arresting citizens who post misinformation online again. So in that light, here's a series of images with no correlation to anything. Oh wow, look at it's like each jacket was different. They all had different pockets. That's weird. Look at that. It's different backpacks. Gray, black, no backpack. That's weird. Look at this one. No unibrow. Unibrow visible despite low resolution. Okay. Wow, this person even measured it. Yeah, that doesn't look right. Weird. I mean, I guess maybe that's who would have yelled, "It's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people," when he was being, escorted. How could anyone recognize this guy from those pictures?
I'm not going to comment on that last part other than to say I have the same questions that this guy has. As far as the EU trying to get the world's leaders to arrest their citizens for what the EU determines to be misinformation, it just sounds like they think they have a stronger reach than they do. I'll start being worried about this one when we start seeing reports of it happening.
The longest lasting battery is finally here. Forget having to charge your phone every night. This will last for years. Scientists have managed to squeeze nuclear energy into a tiny wafer made from diamond. Just a millimeter thick, this battery uses a small amount of carbon-14, an unstable radioactive gas, meaning it constantly shoots out particles that can harm us, called radioactive decay. But these ejecting particles also produce energy. They trap this gas inside the hardest material they can find, in this case, synthetic lab-grown diamond, which absorb the radiation produced by the carbon-14, making sure it doesn't leak out, keeping us safe from its harmful effects. While something called the beta voltaic effect allows the diamond to convert the emitted electrons from the radioactive decay into electricity. Essentially, an unlimited energy device. And they told us it wasn't possible. Not literally though, as this decay obviously doesn't last forever, but it is very, very slow, meaning these things can produce energy for a very, very long time. The half-life of carbon-14 is about 5,700 years and would allow this battery to provide energy for thousands, possibly up to 10,000 years before depleting. Which means if the ancient Egyptians hypothetically developed this battery at the height of their civilization, this thing would still be running to this day. For now, they're planning on mainly using these batteries for things like deep sea or space equipment for convenience sake, or even for pacemakers and hearing aids that never need to get replaced. But I know we all want it for the same purpose: smartphones. Do you think we'll see the release of of the world's first phone that only needs to be charged once every 10,000 years in our lifetime?
I think this is absolutely amazing. Not just the fact that they discovered this, but the fact that they're allowing the public to be aware of it. Maybe we can get away from using lithium and cobalt and everything and switch to a safer option that doesn't have to be disposed of for thousands of years. I think this is extremely exciting.
This whole CIA document is just absolutely wild. There was this remote viewer. His task was to look up where the Galactic Federation headquarters is at. And he talks about the surroundings. It's on our world. There's these huge mountains, and then there's a giant lake. The guy says it seemed a lot like Lake Titicaca in Peru. Okay. He entered this chamber, and in the middle of this room was this altar. And all of a sudden, from above, there was this white light, and there was a group of entities in white robes. He said it seemed very spiritual. He didn't know how to describe it. In 2000, Italian archaeologists discovered at the bottom of Lake Titicaca was this ancient temple that really matched up with the CIA document. It's also the highest lake in the world.
There's significance to that. The Bible talks about how God was jealous for the attention of his people, or even just defending his own glory. So if there was this fallen angel civilization high in the mountains that like were above destruction, for like God to flood it and be like, you're not beyond my reach.
Oh gosh.
So interesting.
Yeah. That's pretty cool if that's all true. I wonder if that's what the remote viewer was seeing was fallen angels, or if he was seeing the last race of humanity before the Younger Dryas event. Who's to say that past versions of humanity looked exactly like we do today? Science is pretty certain that the Earth had more oxygen at some point, so everything was much bigger. It would only make sense to include humans in that assumption.
Drones are studying plasmoids. So this is a theory that's being thrown around everywhere right now. These drones that are ours are being seen near these strange orbs, and people are calling them plasmoids. So what is a plasmoid? Now, the study of this phenomena has been going on for decades, but the current definition is that a plasmoid is a coherent toroidal structure of plasma in magnetic fields. And these things are a natural phenomena seen all over the world, but they seem to be showing up in tandem with all of these drones. And it's probably what Foo Fighters and ghost rockets were back in the 1940s that pilots reported. Plasmoids have been observed around the sun, in the sky, but can also be created in the lab. Think something like ball lightning. They can appear as orbs or elongated cylinders, kind of like a lot of the UAPs or UFOs that have been reported for decades to centuries. If able to be understood and harnessed, they could actually provide applications for fusion research or even space travel. And these plasmoids are said to be capable of absorbing, storing, and releasing large amounts of energy, and in effect, functioning as a kind of self-charging atomic battery. They've been seen zipping around at high speeds, changing direction on a dime. They can shapeshift and appear to have transmedium travel capabilities, so they can go into the air, space, or into water. And the strangest thing is, they appear to be sentient. But that's impossible for them to have sentience, right? Well, consider this new article from the Journal of Modern Physics, and I'm not sure if this is peer-reviewed, and also don't take my word for it, I'm not a physicist, and always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. But in this article, they reference video and photographic evidence during NASA shuttle missions, encounters on the Mir space station and the ISS, as well as with the United States Navy and Customs and Border Protection encountering and dealing with these plasmoid UAPs. They've been known to chase, harass, and toy with our aircraft and seem to have properties that can have negative effects on electronics. They can pass through solid objects like glass, metal, and have been seen splitting into additional plasmoids, and sometimes seem to affect people's mental activity. And some of the scientists from this paper suggest that they could represent a fourth domain of life. Now, the question is, did these escape from a lab somewhere like the one in Princeton, New Jersey? Or is there really a non-human intelligence behind all of this? Let me know what you think in the comments.
I think this is the best theory out there right now, and it's the only one that I currently subscribe to. That the drones are the government, and the only reason they're up there is because of these orbs. I don't know that I'm convinced of what they're actually doing up there. I don't know if they're investigating these orbs or trying to defend us against them.
Educational and entertainment purposes only. Listen closely.
Scriptures come to mind. The bottom one, of course, is Hebrews Old Testament 26:5. And the top one is in the Christian New Testament, Mark 5:1-15. In the Bible, in Job, the oldest book in the Bible in the Old Testament is Job. And that's where we get our word job. Your job is a very depressing thing. Well, that's what the story of Job was, a very depressing thing. Yeah. So that's where we get our word job, from Job. But anyway, in the book of Job 26, this is the Old Testament, it says, dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. Over in on the right-hand side is the footnote. It says, dead things are formed from under the waters, which is translated, the place where the Rephaim stay, which is beneath the waters and the things that are therein. What are you talking about, dead things? The dead things is the Hebrew word Rephaim, or the offspring of fallen angels, akin to the Nephilim. So there are, according to the Bible, Old Testament, there are offspring of the angels, or the sons of God, these creatures who have come here millions of years ago and procreated. And their offspring are able to live underwater in the oceans. So that might explain why you're seeing UFOs coming out of the oceans, a lot of activity over the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean, because even the Bible said dead things is Rephaim, the offspring of fallen angels akin to the Nephilim, or the Anunnaki. So I'm just saying it is at least possible that we have high civilizations from other worlds who are now living on the ocean floor in the Atlantic and Pacific, because they can live there. We can't. They're called the Elohim, or as Zechariah, my friend Zechariah Sitchin says, the Anunnaki. We don't know what they're capable of, but obviously they are far superior to anything they've created, which is us.
This one I find fascinating. The Bible seems to address these orbs that are coming out of the ocean and tells us what they actually are. If this is what that's referring to, then that means they likely aren't here to help us, but to bring us harm. That's a little unsettling. I can't make my mind up, though. That video we watched yesterday, that orb looked like it was dancing when that lady mentioned Jesus.
As part of President Biden's climate change agenda, the U.S. Postal Service is planning to purchase 60,000 electric vehicles from defense contractor Oshkosh. Now, you might be thinking, why does the post office need to purchase vehicles from a defense contractor? Well, because the mail trucks apparently need to be upgradable to include a howitzer, silly. So we spent $3 billion for 93 trucks. You know what else you can buy for $3 billion? A working mail system, or a mansion on Mars, or 3 million trucks that actually work. For $3 billion, they got 93 trucks. For $3 billion, you can get 93 F-16s. We're paying the same amount for a mail truck as we do for an F-16. Just let that sink in for a minute.
It is infuriating to see where our tax dollars go. The Department of Government Efficiency could not get fired up fast enough. I can't wait to see a stop to all this clear money laundering with our taxes. They need to start investigating the people that are involved in these massive failed government contracts. Somebody needs to be held accountable for this stuff.
You hear about what they're doing in the UK right now with Bill Gates?
No.
Bill Gates invested $12 million in this Australian firm called Ruminate. They feed these cows a certain feed which eliminates their farts.
Oh, less methane gas, right? Yeah.
But this chemical that they feed these cows, it corrodes like human eyes, skin, and if you inhale it, it could kill you. As a human, they're feeding it to the cows to stop them from farting, to lower climate change. In return, it's going to be absorbed into their milk, which goes into butter, cheese, dairy.
I imagine.
They're really trying to push it into the UK right now.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
Of all the things to change.
They have to have a meeting where they're just like, what is the most ridiculous thing that we can come up with that we're going to shove down their throats, and they're going to think we're ridiculous? We're just spitballing here. Anything. What do you got?
No bad ideas?
No bad ideas.
Cow fights. That's it.
He's onto something.
The sheer lack of concern for the potential side effects this could present to the human population is absolutely mind-blowing. I get why Bill Gates doesn't care. He's about as evil as they come. But how many other people had to be involved in this process who decided to just look the other way in regards to public safety?
So the oscillating universe theory means the Big Bang has happened, but there's also been a big crunch that destroys the universe, and it keeps happening over and over and over. We could be on the 50th universe, we could be on the 5 billionth universe, we could even be on the first. Now, while scientists believe the the Big Bang is what started the Earth, after the Big Bang, expansion would happen too, because it's an explosion, and explosions push things far away from each other at that center point. But what if after everything gets so far away, it starts getting sucked back into itself, calling it the Big Crunch, which would start the universe over. That crunch would start another Big Bang, because inevitably two atoms would hit each other and cause another large explosion. It's worded like this: the Big Bang begins as a hot, dense, small point that slowly expands. The Big Crunch then pulls everything back together due to increasing heat and brightness. And the Big Bounce is where everything hits each other, destroys itself, and then starts a new universe. This theory does have issues with it. We'll go into them in a second. Now, a good way to think of it is like a balloon, inflating and deflating over and over. The inflation caused by the Big Bang, just like things are moving further away from each other in space, but then they do get pulled back together. When it reaches that center point, it blows back up again. Nothing's going to survive that. Now, scientists mostly agree this isn't very plausible because we've figured out a lot about the universe already, and it will likely end in a heat death. And there's not that much we don't understand in terms of base knowledge of everything. Dark energy, dark matter is one of those things that could change this, but likely won't. So now you ask yourself, what is heat death? Well, things keep expanding and they never stop, and stars burn out, and eventually that heat will be so evenly dispersed, nothing will be able to live. As well as black holes sucking up a lot of what is putting out heat. There's probably one in the middle of our universe. We know of a few of them, and they're massive. And we don't know what happens when you go through them, but we haven't seen anything really come out. So I like using this photo to explain it, but you can think of this where we start, and then as things keep going, you know, they expand and get closer together until right here in the middle, they get so close together, you know, the explosion happens again, and it restarts, and it just keeps going forever. Now, the world is a wonderful, beautiful place, but nobody understands this, and as weird as it can be, we have a lot of evidence that points away from this theory. It's always something I thought was interesting, and it gave me a bit of an existential crisis when I learned about it when I was like 12. But while we were on the topic of theories of the universe, I thought this would be a really great point to hit.
I'm not sure that I buy that that's the way things work. Smarter people than me believe it to be true, though. It's just that the Big Bang Theory itself has never really made any sense to me. Unless, of course, you view it from the perspective of a program starting up, like the simulation booting. But what do you guys think? It just seems to me that even if this is the way the universe works, we'll never be able to get enough measurements to definitively prove it in the first place. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my merch store at berry-stepp.com if you'd like to order a shirt, a hat, or a hoodie. Also, don't forget to drop a photo of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. But with all that out of the way, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.